The fluorescent lights of Metropolitan General Hospital cast harsh shadows across the trauma bay as Dr. Lyra Chen scrubbed her hands at the surgical sink. At 31, she'd built a reputation as one of the finest emergency physicians in the city, calm under pressure, precise in her decisions, unwavering in her focus. What her colleagues didn't know was that beneath the skin tone modifier on her wrist, her natural violet skin marked her as something far from human. She'd come to Earth 6 years ago as a celestial researcher studying human emotional bonds, something her species, the astrals, had engineered out of their biology centuries ago. Her mission was simple: observe, document, and return home. Falling in love had never been part of the plan. Dr. Chen, incoming trauma. The intercom crackled. Male, mid-30s, MVA with severe chest injuries. ETA 2 minutes. Lyra dried her hands and moved into position, her mind already running through protocols. This was her element, the place where emotion had no room, where only skill and knowledge mattered. The automatic doors burst open and paramedics rushed in with the gurney. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes dropping to assess the patient, and her entire world shattered. The face beneath the oxygen mask, bruised and bloodied, was one she'd memorized in another lifetime. One she'd tried desperately to forget. Kieran Drake. Time seemed to freeze. 6 years collapsed into this single moment. She was 25 again, working as a hospital volunteer while conducting her research, and he'd walked into her life like a storm. Kieran Drake, the tech entrepreneur whose company was revolutionizing communication technology. He'd come in for a charity event at the hospital, and when their eyes met across the crowded room, something had shifted in Lyra's carefully controlled world. Their courtship had been intense and unexpected. Kieran worked impossible hours building his empire, but he made time for her. Coffee before her shifts, stolen lunches, late dinners where they talked until dawn. He'd been fascinated by her unique perspective on life, not knowing she was literally seeing humanity from an outsider's viewpoint. 3 months after they met, he'd proposed on a rooftop overlooking the city, the lights below them like fallen stars. She'd said yes, already knowing she was violating every protocol of her mission, already aware she was falling in love in ways her species believed impossible. Then, one morning, Kieran vanished. No note, no call, no explanation. His apartment was emptied overnight. His office was cleared out. His phone disconnected. It was as if he'd never existed, except for the engagement ring she'd pawned to pay for prenatal care, and the daughter she'd raised alone for 6 years. Dr. Chen. A nurse's urgent voice snapped her back. We need you now. Professional training took over like armor. Lyra moved to the head of the bed, her hands already assessing damage. Get me a cardiac ultrasound. Possible tamponade. Page surgery and prep or 2. The next 20 minutes were controlled chaos. The ultrasound revealed what she'd feared, blood pooling around his heart, preventing it from beating effectively. Without immediate surgery, Kieran would die. Let's move, Lyra commanded, and her team sprang into action. As they rushed toward the operating room, Kieran's eyes fluttered open briefly, unfocused, confused, searching. For a split second, they locked on her face, and something flickered in their depths before he lost consciousness again. In the OR, Lyra became pure surgeon. Here, emotion had no place. The man on her table was a patient with a damaged heart that needed repair. Nothing more. She made the incision with steady hands and began the delicate work. Hours passed. The surgery was complex, requiring every ounce of her expertise. When she finally stepped back and watched his heart beat steadily on the monitor, relief washed through her. Close him up, she instructed her resident. ICU with continuous monitoring. In the scrub room, Lyra's hands trembled as she removed her gloves. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her exposed to the emotional storm she'd been holding back. Kieran Drake was alive. After 6 years of silence, 6 years of wondering if he was dead or had simply stopped loving her, he'd crashed back into her life. And upstairs in her sister's apartment, their daughter Nova was asking when mommy would be home. Her phone buzzed, a text from her sister Maya. Nova won't sleep until you call. She misses you, tears blurred Lyra's vision. Nova had Kieran's dark hair and his devastating smile. She was brilliant and curious, asking constant questions about stars and planets, inheriting both parents' fascination with the universe. Nova had asked about her father exactly once, 2 years ago. When Lyra had no answers to give, her daughter had simply nodded and never asked again. What would she tell Nova now? How could she explain that the father who'd been absent her entire life? 2 days later, Kieran opened his eyes. Lyra was checking his vitals when she felt his gaze on her face, heavy with recognition and disbelief. Lyra. His voice was rough from the ventilator tube that had only been removed hours earlier. Is this real? Are you real? She stepped back instinctively, maintaining professional distance. Don't try to talk too much. You've had major cardiac surgery. You need to rest. I've been trying to find you for 6 months. Tears gathered in his eyes. Ever since I was released from witness protection. The words hit Lyra like a physical blow. Witness protection? Over the next hour, Kieran told her everything. How his business partner had been using their technology for illegal surveillance and blackmail. How Kieran had discovered the truth and gone to the FBI. How the criminal network had threatened to kill Lyra if he didn't disappear immediately. I made a deal with the FBI, Kieran said, his voice breaking. I'd wear a wire, testify, help them dismantle the entire operation. But I had to vanish that night, no contact, no warning. They said any communication could compromise the case and put you at risk. 6 years, Kieran. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. You've been gone 6 years. The case kept expanding. New evidence, new appeals, threats against witnesses. They moved me 3 times. His hand reached for hers, trembling. Every day I thought about you. Wondered if you'd moved on, found someone else. But I couldn't risk your safety by making contact. Why didn't you tell me you were in danger? We could have faced it together. Because I love you too much to risk your life. Kieran's eyes held hers. I thought 6 months, maybe a year. Not 6 years. God, Lyra, I'm so sorry. She wanted to stay angry, to hold on to the hurt that had sustained her through sleepless nights and lonely years. But looking at him, broken and vulnerable, tears streaming down his face, she felt her walls cracking. There's something you need to know, she said quietly. Something that happened after you left. Before she could continue, the door burst open. Maya stood there, panic on her face, with a small girl whose dark curls bounced as she ran into the room. Mama. 6-year-old Nova threw herself at Lyra. Auntie Maya said I could surprise you at work. Time stopped. Lyra watched Kieran's face as he looked at Nova, really looked at her. She saw the exact moment recognition crashed over him. The dark curls that matched his own. The distinctive shape of her eyes. The smile that was pure Kieran Drake. Oh my God, Kieran breathed. How old is she? 6, Lyra said, her voice thick with emotion. She'll be 7 in February. Kieran's hands trembled as he stared at Nova. She's mine. Our daughter. I have a daughter. His voice broke completely. 6 years. I've missed 6 years of her life. Nova, fearless and curious, walked closer to the bed. Why are you crying? Does it hurt? No, sweetheart, Kieran managed. I'm crying because I'm happy. Sometimes people cry when they're very, very happy. What's your name? Nova asked, tilting her head. Kieran. His voice was barely audible. I'm your father. Nova's eyes widened. She looked at Lyra, who nodded through tears, then back at Kieran. You're my daddy? The one who had to go away? Yes. And I'm so sorry I wasn't here. Kieran held out his hand, and Nova took it without hesitation. "It's okay," Nova said with the easy forgiveness of children. "Mama said you'd come back when you could. Are you going to stay now?" "Yes," Kieran promised, looking at Lyra. "I'm never leaving again." Lyra felt her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. But she had one more truth to reveal, one that might change everything. "Kieran, there's something else." She took a deep breath. "I'm not entirely human. I'm astral, from a planet called Celestia. I came here as a researcher studying human emotional bonds." Kieran stared at her, processing. "You're an alien?" Lyra deactivated her skin modifier. Her skin rippled, shifting from human beige to luminous violet. Nova giggled, she'd grown up seeing Mama's special skin at home. "I was supposed to observe and return home," Lyra continued. "But then I fell in love with you. When Nova was born, half human, half astral, my people considered her an abomination. They wanted me to return without her. I chose her. I chose Earth. I chose the life we'd started to build." Kieran reached out, his fingers touching her violet skin with wonder. "I don't care what you are. You're the woman I love. The mother of my child." He looked at Nova, then back at Lyra. "We're a family. That's all that matters." But his words were prophetic. Because family meant something worth protecting. And the threats that had separated them weren't as finished as everyone believed. The press conference was scheduled for the following week. Kieran would publicly expose the remaining criminal network, and the FBI would make simultaneous arrests. But the criminals moved first. Lyra was at the hospital when her phone rang. Maya's voice was barely coherent through her panic. "They took her. Lyra, they took Nova." The world tilted. "What? How?" Two men, pretending to be FBI. They had badges, paperwork. "They took her from school before I could get there." Maya was sobbing. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Lyra's hands shook as she called Agent Morrison, but Kieran reached her first. Despite his injuries, he'd been coordinating security from her apartment. His face was ashen. "They sent a message. If I testify, they'll kill her. If I don't, they'll keep her as insurance forever." "No." Lyra's voice was deadly calm. "They won't. Because I'm going to get her back." She deactivated her modifier completely, her violet skin glowing with astral power. Agent Morrison arrived to find Lyra preparing weapons, both human and alien technology she'd kept hidden for years. "Dr. Chen, let us handle this. Your way takes too long. They have my daughter." Lyra's eyes blazed violet. "I'm astral. We're not just researchers. My people are warriors when we need to be." Kieran stood beside her. "Where she goes, I go. You're barely healed. She's my daughter too." The FBI traced Nova's location to a warehouse on the waterfront. Lyra refused to wait for backup. She moved through the building like smoke, her astral abilities allowing her to sense life signatures and move within human speed. She found Nova in a locked room, guarded by two men. The fight was brief and brutal. Lyra's enhanced strength and combat training made quick work of the kidnappers, though she ensured they lived. Nova didn't need to see her mother as a killer. "Mama." Nova threw herself into Lyra's arms, sobbing. "I've got you, baby. You're safe now." Kieran burst through the door seconds later, having fought his way through despite his injuries. He wrapped his arms around both of them, and they stood there, a family, complete and whole. The FBI arrested everyone involved. Agent Morrison later admitted that Lyra's intervention had saved Nova's life. Waiting for official backup would have taken too long. But the exposure brought another consequence. Lyra's people had been monitoring Earth news. Her display of power, her public connection to humans, her daughter, all of it triggered an immediate recall. The message came that night: return to Celestia immediately for re-education. Failure to comply results in permanent exile. Lyra read it with Kieran beside her, Nova asleep in the next room. They'll erase my memories of you both if I return, she said quietly. They'll make me forget I ever learned to love. Then don't go back, Kieran said. Stay here. With us. It means giving up my entire home planet. My family there. Everything I was before Earth. Kieran took her hands. What do you want, Lyra? She looked toward Nova's room, then back at Kieran. The answer was clear. I want you. Both of you. Always. Then choose us. Choose this family. Lyra sent her response that night: request permanent asylum on Earth. Accept exile from Celestia. The finality of it was crushing and liberating in equal measure. She would never see her home planet again, never return to the society she'd been born into. But looking at Kieran and thinking of Nova, she had no regrets. Welcome home, Kieran whispered, kissing her forehead. And for the first time in 6 years, Lyra truly felt at home. Kieran was discharged after a week. Lyra had arranged for him to stay in her apartment's guest room while he recovered, not for his sake, but for Nova's. Their daughter had bonded with him instantly, and the joy in her eyes was something Lyra couldn't bear to take away. The first evening, after Nova was asleep, Kieran and Lyra finally talked. Really talked. About the years apart, the pain, the loneliness. About Nova and all the moments he'd missed. About Lyra's alien heritage and what it meant for their daughter. Does she have abilities? Kieran asked, sitting on the couch with careful movements, his chest still healing. Not yet. Astral children develop them during adolescence. She might have enhanced cognitive processing, possibly empathic abilities. Lyra sat across from him, maintaining distance. My people would be fascinated by her, a human astral hybrid. That's why I've kept her hidden. Hidden from your own people? They don't understand love the way humans do. They'd see her as a research subject, not a child. Lyra's voice was fierce. I'll never let them take her. Kieran leaned forward. And what about us, Lyra? Is there still an us possible? Before she could answer, her phone rang. Maya's name flashed on the screen, and something in Lyra's gut clenched with warning. Maya? What's wrong? Lyra, there are men at Nova's school. Her sister's voice was panicked. They tried to take her during recess. The school went into lockdown. The police are here, but they were asking about Kieran. Asking about his location. Lyra's blood turned to ice. Is Nova safe? Yes, she's with me. But Lyra, these men, they're professionals. The police say this was an attempted kidnapping. Kieran was already standing, despite his injuries. What happened? Your enemies found out you're alive, Lyra said, her voice deadly calm. And they're targeting Nova. Within an hour, their apartment was filled with FBI agents. Agent Morrison, a stern woman in her 40s, explained the situation with brutal efficiency. The criminal network Kieran helped dismantle wasn't fully dismantled. We got the major players, but some lower-level operatives stayed hidden. They've been watching for any sign Kieran resurfaced. She looked at Nova, who sat close to Lyra, frightened but trying to be brave. When they discovered he has a daughter, she became leverage. What are our options? Lyra demanded. Witness protection for all 3 of you. New identities, relocation. No. Lyra's voice was steel. I'm not running. And I'm not hiding my daughter in fear. Dr. Chen, these people are dangerous. So am I. Lyra's eyes flashed violet beneath her modifier. I'm astral. My people may have bred out emotions, but we kept our defensive capabilities. I can protect my family. Kieran stood beside her, his hand finding hers. We face this together. No more separation. No more hiding. Agent Morrison sighed. There may be another option. Kieran, if you testify again, publicly this time, exposing everyone involved, we can offer full protection while building an ironclad case. But it means making yourself visible. Making your family visible. Do it, Kieran said without hesitation. I'll testify. I'll expose everything. Just keep them safe. That night, after the agents left and Nova was finally asleep, Lyra stood on her apartment balcony, staring at the stars. Kieran joined her, moving slowly. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I brought this danger to you and Nova. You brought danger, yes. But you also brought love. Lyra turned to face him. 6 years ago, I thought I'd lost you forever. I thought I'd raise Nova alone, always wondering. Now you're here, wanting to be a father, willing to fight for us. I love you, Lyra. I never stopped. Kieran cupped her face gently. Human, alien, I don't care. You're everything to me. You and Nova. When he kissed her, it was like coming home after years of being lost. Lyra wrapped her arms around him carefully, mindful of his healing chest, and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. They made love that night slowly, carefully, reconnecting after years of separation. Kieran traced her violet skin with reverent hands, and Lyra rediscovered the man she'd loved with such intensity it had nearly destroyed her. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, Lyra made a decision. My people will recall me soon. They monitor emotional attachments. Between you and the public attention coming, they'll find out. What will you do? Choose you. Choose Nova. Choose Earth. She looked at him. Even if it means permanent exile from my home planet. Kieran held her tighter. We'll face it all together. I promise. But neither of them knew the biggest threat was still coming. 3 months after Nova's rescue, Kieran stood on a beach at sunset with his daughter's hand in his. Nova wore a white flower girl dress and couldn't stop smiling. Is Mama going to be pretty? She asked for the 10th time. She's always pretty. But today she'll be beautiful. The ceremony was small, just Maya, a few close friends, Agent Morrison who'd become an unexpected ally, and the FBI team that had protected them. Lyra walked down the sandy aisle in a simple white dress, her violet skin glowing softly in the golden light. She'd stopped hiding after the rescue, and the world had learned about Earth's first confirmed alien resident. The reaction had been mixed, fear, fascination, scientific interest, but Kieran had stood by her publicly, using his resources and influence to protect her from those who wanted to study or exploit her. Together, they'd become advocates for cross-species understanding. I came to Earth to study human love, Lyra said during her vows, tears streaming down her violet cheeks. I thought it was something to observe and catalogue. Instead, I learned that love isn't something you study, it's something you feel with every cell of your being. You taught me to love, Kieran. You gave me Nova, the most precious gift in any universe. You're worth every world I left behind. I lost 6 years with you, Kieran said, his own voice thick with emotion. 6 years I can never get back. But I'm not wasting another moment. I love you, Lyra Chen. Human, alien, or anything else, you're my wife, my partner, my family. You and Nova are my entire world. When they kissed, Nova cheered loudly, making everyone laugh. They were pronounced husband and wife as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. The reception was joyful and simple. Nova danced with both parents, her laughter ringing across the beach. Later, as the party wound down, she fell asleep on Kieran's shoulder. She's perfect, Kieran whispered, carrying their daughter to the car. Thank you for giving her to me. Even when I wasn't there. You're here now. That's what matters. They drove home to the house they'd bought together, a fresh start for their family. After putting Nova to bed, Lyra and Kieran stood on their balcony, watching the stars. Do you ever regret it? Kieran asked. Giving up your home planet? Never. Celestia was where I came from, but this, she gestured to the house, to Nova's room, to him, this is home. You and Nova are my home. Any messages from your people? 1. From my mentor. Lyra pulled out her communicator. She said my choice to stay is being studied. Other astrals are curious about emotions now, about what I found on Earth. Maybe someday they'll understand that breeding out love made them less, not more. You're changing worlds, Kieran said, pulling her close. We're changing worlds. Together. Years later, when Nova was 12 and beginning to develop her astral abilities, she asked about her mother's home planet. Lyra told her stories of Celestia's crystal cities and binary suns, but always ended the same way. I don't regret leaving, sweetheart. Because staying gave me you and your father. Some choices are easy, even when they're hard. Nova hugged her tight. I'm glad you chose us. Every day, Lyra whispered. I choose you every day. Kieran watched his wife and daughter, his heart full. 6 years had been stolen from them, but they'd built something beautiful from the broken pieces. A family that transcended species and planets, held together by the most powerful force in any universe. Love. And it was worth everything.